A policy into action. Arizona and Texas National Guard troops start deploying to the border.
Texas vowed to send 250 National Guard troops by Monday. Arizona says they'll send 150 by next week.
People who came to this country illegally. That's a very real problem. That's not an inflated problem.
What happened during that infamous tarmac meeting between former President Bill Clinton and former Attorney General Loretta Lynch?
On Monday, Loretta Lynch will be giving an interview talking about this very subject.
Her version of events.
I think it was chit-chat. This is a meeting that they didn't want anybody to know about. It's highly suspicious.
President Trump taking on two foes, China and Russia, with tough talk and tough policy.
I'm not saying there won't be a little pain, but we're going to have a much stronger country when we're finished.
This is classic President Trump. I think we get to a better place, and I think the president then declares victory.
Do you want to keep your personal information private on Facebook? Well, then you're going to have to pay to do that.
Did you have an opt-out button? Please don't use my profile data for advertising.
We don't have an opt-out at the highest level. That would be a paid product.
Man, what a picture perfect postcard this would make of America. It's a high school prom.
It's more American than beating Pete at an athletic competition.
Is that what it is? I thought you were going to say the Masters, Ed.
Well, yeah.
Which is very American.
You know what? It's a tradition like no other, beating Pete. Oh, no, the Masters.
That is pretty good, too, though. It's a great feeling. The look on your face every time you beat Pete is pretty
back
incredible.
the camera up a little bit. Hold on here.
Let
me show you.
So, guys, we've got our own Masters on the plazas we just showed you. So we're practicing now for your
This is just a little
competition.
Are you a lefty?
I'm trying to. I'm a lefty. Phil Mickelson.
Mickelson.
Look at this right here. Bingo. Oh, that was.
Oh, wait, that would have been in. That would have been in.
That would have been in.
good.
You see the fear? You see the fear?
I got to tell you something. Pete always says I'm a journalist with the air quotes. So it comes in handy because I did a little reporting, and I found out a little secret about the course that I'm not going to tell you until after. Yeah.
Secret sources from a journalist.
It's not cheating if you do reporting and you get information.
But you won't reveal where you get your reporting from. It's
an anonymous
sources that we can't verify.
You might call it fake news. It's real news. I'm going to use it to.
You know what I love about these two? A little secret I want to share with our audience. They talk so tough on camera. They're like these big macho guys. I can be Pete. I can be Ed. Well, guess what goes on when the cameras turn off? Behind the scenes in the commercial break. Ready? Are you ready for this?
Yeah, what?
Savage Garden. This is what you both were singing.
We were.
In the commercial
Don't
break.
make me sing it again.
I'm not singing it on the air.
They were going at it on the song.
He's like the brother I never had. The brother you're a little embarrassed about, but you're like, all right, he's cool.
Come on, Pete, you got it.
Go for it.
I don't remember the word.
Over me.
You know,
This is what happens on the show.
That's what it goes on later on.
I tell you what, we actually have a lot of news to get to.
There's a lot going on. So golf later on the show, and my mom's actually going to join the couch as well.
I saw her.
There's my mom. Yeah, she's back from Moscow, so she's been in Russia. Cool. Not really a lot going on over there.
No.
So yeah, she won't be on the
busy.
couch. She had another granddaughter just born yesterday or 2 days ago. So
I know, I saw that on
exciting
Instagram.
times.
Oh, very
So
cool.
I bet she's enjoying your daughter a lot, and we're going to. And they're moving forward, but they're doing a whole lot of other stuff as well. Overnight, we learned the president has signed a memo ordering an end to this catch and release policy, which basically means the Border Patrol agents catch someone at the border, a migrant who's basically going to become an illegal immigrant if they get into America and start roaming around. If they get 1 foot down on American soil, they have to be released. Yeah. They're supposed to eventually be detained, brought into court, but sometimes they show up for court, sometimes they don't. And look what happened last night. These photos online of someone who basically, on the Mexico side, climbs over with the help of a friend who's got his hands under his feet.
They were able to do it in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
They were trying to see how fast they could jump over that wall, and they did it.
And that was
a
6-meter wall, a 20-foot wall, not the 30-foot wall proposed by the president, not the prototypes that they feel like would prevent that type of scaling. And as I was reading the story about it, it was a AFP story. I was struck by one sentence. I think underscores the difference, the point of view the president takes than those who are advocates for illegal immigrants. It said, as this guy jumps over the wall and runs, disappearing into the desert, running toward a group of houses just visible on the horizon. And I think about the American citizens in those houses who live within stone's throw of the border and live with the reality that illegals, whether they're coming here peacefully or not, drugs, gangs or not, are dealing with that constant threat until we get our hands around the sovereignty of our borders. And that's why I think a lot of people are welcoming the urgency of this president, not just the National Guard, but ending catch and release, and also this new zero tolerance
policy put in place by Attorney General Jeff Sessions. But when you talk about catch and release, up until now, if you were to put one step over that border, you could be here for months to a year to maybe a couple years before the court decides what they want to do with you.
Before you decide to voluntarily show back up to the court.
So what happens now when you have the National Guard troops at the border? If you take a step over that border, what changes now?
What changes now is they've ordered the DHS. This memo orders the DHS to submit a report to the president within 45 days.
But these people can still go to separate places, right? Or do they push them out?
Well, they're going to try to detain them, we believe, but then that's going to cost money. Where are you going to hold them?
There's still a lot of questions that surround figuring out the right answers to our immigration policy.
The president is saying Congress needs to act on immigration reform. Short of that, I'm going to take executive action. Yeah. And I think that's what we're seeing.
And I think people are encouraged by the fact that it's going to take some time. You got to figure out how you implement it, but it's better than the status quo, which is catch and release. And when you saw the migrant caravan coming, and that sort of triggered this entire conversation, if you know where they're going to go, which means you hold them until they have a trial, then you decide. And then if there's zero tolerance, meaning the second time you cross the border, you're now a felon if you cross illegally. That's not how current law stands. Is you get slapped on the wrist. You can see these guys coming back 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times.
Current Attorney General Jeff Sessions in the middle of this, issuing memorandums, new policies with immigration judges this week. The last Attorney General, Loretta Lynch, was in the middle of a lot of controversy.
You remember that? The infamous tarmac meeting. This was right at the height of the email investigation for Hillary Clinton. So went on that tarmac, talked to former President Bill Clinton. They said they just were talking about golf. They were talking about grandkids. Well, now,
Even though Hillary Clinton was under investigation by the FBI at that moment.
Right, but they said nothing was talked about there. But Loretta Lynch, the former Attorney General, will be on NBC for an interview on Monday, and this, of course, comes a week before. We've been calling it the Comey week because he has a book coming out. Yes, and he will be out the following week, and maybe she's trying to get ahead of this. Maybe she's trying to explain some questions that still remain from that moment on the tarmac.
I think so. It was you could call it the height of the email investigation or the height of the email exoneration, because James Comey, who was the FBI director at the time, had already drafted the exoneration of Hillary Clinton when that meeting took place. Let's flash back to the way when James Comey was forced to testify about a year ago in May of 2017 about this exchange on the tarmac. There was some daylight in his feelings about it. Take a listen.
I'm not picking on the Attorney General, Loretta Lynch, who I like very much, but her meeting with President Clinton on that airplane was the capper for me. And I then said, you know what? The department cannot by itself credibly end this.
So we'll see.
I think that did it.
He was concerned about the appearance.
I think there was a conflict of interest there.
But
just a little bit.
So you've got that, and now he's going to come out on the book tour. So she tries to get ahead of that Monday on NBC News, and she's going to give her version. Is she going to stick with, we just talked about grandkids and golf, or is she going to say, well, the email thing might have come up. We'll see what she says. Then James Comey has the book tour. So we had Philippe Reines on today from the Clinton camp, essentially. He's on his own now, but he's a Clinton advisor, and said, what was happening on that plane? Did they talk about the email investigation? He really downplayed it. Watch.
I think it was chit-chat. I think it was chit-chat, and I know from them that there was food set out, and they did a little grazing of the, cheese stripe. No, he worked, he hired her 20 years earlier.
So
chit-chat and cheese plates.
You know what?
There's a buffet.
Look, the timing is very interesting. So we have Loretta Lynch who will speak out publicly, and I'm sure she'll get some tough questions about that moment. And then James Comey will be asked these questions when he's on his book tour. So it will be interesting to see the tit for tat. Who says what? Does any of it conflict? Because the eyeballs will be on everyone.
And the Inspector General report.
The Inspector General report comes out from the Justice Department, and then is there fodder here? If there's conflicting accounts about how the Clinton investigation was really handled, does that finally give the impetus for a second special counsel? I think that's the real point. It's not just a bunch of minutia. What happened 2 years ago? It's like, wait a second. Did something criminal happen?
Right.
Should this really be investigated, or is it just history?
I think that's what people are thirsting for. This is not about a vendetta to litigate the past. It's a true understanding whether the highest levels of our government were used to conspire against a candidate.
tweeting this, "I cannot imagine what these parents are going through. My heart goes out to everyone affected by this terrible tragedy. It is so heartbreaking." Also this, President Trump supporting Environmental Protection Agency head Scott Pruitt amid growing calls for his resignation. The report coming, Pruitt is under an ethics review. President Trump's former chief of staff, Reince Priebus, joins us earlier on the show, and here was his defense of him.
If you look at the agenda that he's put in place, the clean water executive order, you look at the energy, the changes that have been made in energy regulations, the coal industry coming back. I mean, he's done, a huge chunk of the changes that have taken place that are making the economy hum again.
Well, President Trump showing his support, tweeting Pruitt is doing a great job, but is totally under siege. Well, a third of young millennials are in the U.S. They are not sure if the Earth is round. A recent survey from YouGov revealing that 18 to 24-year-olds are the largest group in the country who refuse to accept the scientific facts of the world's shape. Only 66% have always believed the world is round. Well, okay. 9% have always believed the world is flat. I have actually never met someone who believes the world is flat. What an interesting conversation that would be.
Oh, my goodness.
All right. Meanwhile,
Even mean.
new reports indicate President Trump is not a criminal target in Special Counsel Mueller's Russia probe. So then, what is Mueller looking for? We're going to ask a former independent counsel, Ken Starr, who, of course, led the Whitewater investigation of Bill Clinton that morphed into something else. We'll get his insights.
And California Congressman Duncan Hunter, National Guard troops from Arizona and Texas heading to the southern border. But California is still silent about the move. Here to weigh in on these developments, California Congressman Duncan Hunter. Congressman, thanks for being here this morning. Appreciate you getting up early for us. Now, you represent an area in Southern California. You saw the president make the case for the wall. Congress has not delivered, despite his best attempts. So he says it's now time to send the military down there. What do you make of his action to mobilize the National Guard? And will the California National Guard be a part of it?
We're all for it here, Pete. We're all for controlling the border in San Diego. We have the only border wall in America, the only actual double border fence with a high-speed road, and you have an area in San Diego that was not livable, meaning people couldn't live on the border in San Diego. There was so much crime. Now people can live right on the border. In regard to your question specifically, Governor Brown has to send National Guard to the border because it's not just a California issue. Once you cross the border, you can go anywhere. So why would the other states and why would the federal government say it's just if it's a California issue, it's okay that the Governor Brown's not going to send troops? You're going to have an unsecured part of the border in California, which you already have because of the state's stupid policies. So it's going to be the weak link, even if you do secure the rest of the border in Arizona and Texas. So it's the federal government's responsibility to make sure that even if the liberal governor here in the state doesn't send National Guard, that they have some other recourse that they can use to secure the border here. Otherwise, you're going to have an opening, and it's not going to matter whether Arizona is secure and Texas is secure.
Well, and it would be embarrassing, too.
California is a magnet now to criminal illegal aliens because we don't cross-check people's immigration status with their criminal status. Well, right? That's a bad thing in this state that draws criminals to the state.
Well, absolutely. I mean, California becoming infamous for being that sanctuary state. But some cities want no part of it. You've seen this, whether it's Huntington Beach, Escondido. You represent the area of Escondido. They became the first city in San Diego County to join the Trump administration's lawsuit against California's sanctuary law. You're on the ground with constituents who live this reality every day. Will that movement to fight the sanctuary state grow?
It's going to grow, and it's going to grow fast. In fact, we're trying, not we are trying, but there is a large group in California that's trying to split off from San Francisco, Sacramento, and Los Angeles and create kind of the interior of California is very conservative. The ocean part, the beachfront property is very liberal. So that's one aspect. The entire interior of California wants a secure border, and they realize too that people that are coming here, that are immigrating to this nation, want a safe place to live. They don't want it like it was back in Honduras. They don't want it like it is in Pakistan. They don't want it like it is in Syria. So why would the legislature in California try to create kind of a criminal state to where you're not safe, even if you're an immigrant? I think that immigrants that come into this country want to leave what they're leaving behind and come to what the U.S. has to offer, which is law and order. And Democrats don't do anybody justice, Democrats or Republicans, when they put this 1% of people that are not American citizens above us.
It feels like they want to be the center of the resistance and represent lawlessness more than they do want to be a part of this country and our laws. Brief last question. There's a ballot initiative for 2020 currently in development that would end the sanctuary state policies in California. Do you think 51% plus would vote for that today in California?
Yes, I think that you're going to get that, especially after we work this for 3 years. You're going to have the majority of Californians say, look, we don't want to be the magnet for criminal aliens in the United States. We want a secure, sovereign state that matches the rest of the United States. And I think that's what the California people are going to do, because every now and then California does the right thing, and hopefully that'll be it.
Every now and then, after trying everything else, California does it. We'll see what Jerry Brown does as far as deployment of California National Guard troops. It'd be interesting if other states deployed to California to defend that border. Hopefully it does not come to that. Congressman Doug Hunter, thank you for your service in Congress as well as in the Marine Corps. Appreciate it.
Hey, thank you, Pete.
You got it. All right, well, new reports indicate President Trump is not a criminal target in Special Counsel Mueller's Russia probe. So what's he looking for exactly? Well, Ken Starr, he's been in Mueller's shoes, and he's coming up next. And it's the backstage brawl dominating the sports world. And we've just learned major trouble could be brewing for UFC star Conor McGregor. Wow.
For this week, former U.S. Ambassador John Bolton will officially start his new role as National Security Advisor, yes, on Monday morning. President Trump nominating him after pushing out H.R. McMaster. And Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg testifying before Congress on Tuesday and Wednesday now. 2 days, two big issues, including the Cambridge Analytica scandal and Russia's use of Facebook during the 2016 campaign. And CIA Director Mike Pompeo will appear before the Senate on Thursday, the Foreign Relations Committee, his confirmation hearing for Secretary of State. President Trump nominating him to replace Rex Tillerson.
Thanks, Ed. All right, well, President Trump reportedly preparing for an interview with special counsel Robert Mueller, although no formal meeting has yet been scheduled.
The news coming just days after reports President Trump is not a criminal target in the Russia probe.
So if the president is not a target, what is Mueller exactly looking for? Who better to talk to than the former independent counsel, former U.S. Solicitor General Ken Starr, who led the Whitewater investigation, of course. Good morning, Counselor.
Hey, good morning.
Nice to see you again. Let's just start simply with this Washington Post story and what you think it really meant in terms of reading the tea leaves. It basically said that the president is not a target of the Mueller probe, but is a subject. For the layman, what's the difference?
Well, it's a huge difference. A target means you really are in trouble. That the grand jury and the investigators, the prosecutors are really focusing on you, perhaps among others. And so I think the president's legal team should feel very good about that. To be a subject is essentially meaningless. Of course, the president is a subject given the nature of what Bob Mueller is investigating. But I would just say this. It looks like increasingly he's investigating the Russian invasion of the United States political system and not collusion. We just don't have, we're in the sort of the black box behind the veil of ignorance, but we still have seen no evidence of collusion. But he sure seems to be investigating the Russian invasion.
So let's talk about whether or not President Trump will ultimately sit down on the record with Robert Mueller. You say this is the ultimate judgment call. What are his advisors, the president's, thinking as they figure out what decision they will ultimately make, whether he should go on the record or not?
Well, there are two perspectives here. The defense perspective is one of caution. Don't do it, Mr. President. It's a perjury trap. There are all these risks and so forth. I get that. It's very wise advice. But from what we read, the president wants to follow his own instincts. I think those instincts are sound because he is the president of the United States. He's not a private citizen. And so in light of the nature of the investigation, the charge that Bob Mueller has, Mueller cannot finish up without getting the president's statements. So Do you want to do it the hard way, the issuance of a subpoena, litigation of a subpoena, dragging the President of the United States before the grand jury? That's very unseemly. Everybody should try to avoid that. So right now it's the art of the deal.
Sure.
To negotiate the right kinds of terms and conditions of the interview.
But Ken, the liability here is that while currently he's not the target and a subject, if you say the wrong thing during an interview like that, you could suddenly find yourself the target.
That's the danger. And so that means preparation. Be careful in what you say. This is not a news conference. One can't be flippant and the like. And the president is a very experienced person in litigation, in civil litigation. But this is, these are now the major leagues. And this is the Super Bowl and the World Series all rolled into one, into that 3 or 4 hour period.
Wow, Ken
But
Starr.
a couple of days ago, real quick, on the Stormy Daniels thing, the president did make a flippant comment. I didn't know about the payment. So that's dangerous in a deposition setting, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, that's on Air Force One. He interacts. You know, he's very, he is himself. But he's got to be, of course, and the lawyers will work with him. And he's so smart that he will know now it's time. He's been in depositions before. It's really time to get serious. The pitcher's on the mound. I'm up at the plate. Total concentration.
So he does it right and it wraps up. Do it wrong and it drags on.
Exactly. Please do it right. Be serious. Look, he's very smart. I think his instincts will serve him well in terms of the seriousness that this is a high jeopardy situation, but one that I think he has to go through.
Right. It sounds like you would advise the president to absolutely sit down with Robert Mueller, and that would hopefully speed things up if done the right way.
Yeah, otherwise you're going to have a big fight in court over a subpoena, and it's just going to get really ugly. And I think there will in fact be a district court order, heaven forbid, ordering the president of the United States to sit down in front of the grand jury. That's not good.
Not good. All right,
negotiate
Ken Starr,
a deal.
A great perspective on this issue. We really appreciate you being on this morning.
It's the ninth inning, the fourth quarter. He's got it all.
That's right. Yeah, thanks, Ken. Appreciate it.
Okay.
All right. Well, still ahead. Do you want to keep your personal information private on Facebook? In order to do so, you might have to pay up. What the tech giant just revealed about your data. We'll talk it over with Neil Cavuto.
Plus, a little boy spoiling his pregnant mom's surprise. The story behind this gender reveal fail that's now going viral. He's got a little toy sword, I think.
Love it. And my mom is here. My mom's coming on the curvy couch. She is home from Moscow, making a pit stop.
Yes.
right
Welcome
here
home.
At Fox and Friends.
Wow.
She's up next. Hey, Mom.
Pleasure. It is our great pleasure to bring in Mary Kay Huntsman, of course, wife of John Huntsman, U.S. Ambassador to Russia, Grandma to Isabel.
Look how big
and
Isabel's
now
gotten.
to a new one.
Was that one
a
from
couple of days ago?
That was from yesterday?
That was seen Isabel. Isabel looks huge next to Harper now.
So my mom flew in from Moscow because, of course, she came to see family. But my sister had another girl in the family 2 days ago, Harper Huntsman Morgan. Congratulations to my sister.
She's so
beautiful. She's healthy. And another girl in the family. So we're so happy about that.
Arriving 10 minutes right before she had the baby.
Oh, that's great.
At the hospital. All the way from Moscow.
We had my mom on the show. I talked to them before they left for Moscow. And how long has it been? 7, 8 months?
About 7 months.
And since then, so much is 2 grandkids.
2 grandchildren, and the death
our grandpa passed away.
Of my husband's father-in-law, and he had to miss all 3 of those. He was able to get there for the funeral, but it's been an amazing couple of months, to say the least.
Thursday was a particularly long day because in the news, 60 diplomats were sent home from Moscow back to the United States, and many of them are your family. Many of them are your friends.
Okay, it was
and
it was
a
a
day
day
had to say bye.
I don't think we'll ever forget. It started out at 5 a.m. We got up and, kind of foggy eyes and walk in. I opened the refrigerator and this Pyrex dish, like 9 by 12 of chicken cacciatore that was there for the kids while I would be here, fell on the floor.
Oh, no.
Glass everywhere. So
I'm sure Daddy was cool as a cucumber.
Yes. My husband came in and we were mopping it up, and it's just like all over the pajamas. And
the glamour of an ambassador.
Yeah. So that started the day.
So here are these photos from where you guys went after that.
Then we went out to the airport, and that was quite an emotional experience. And I have to just say that these diplomats, these officers, are extraordinary. I mean, what they do, what they sacrifice, they're resilient.
Yeah.
We're so much stronger for having them in our lives, and they will move on and do what they do. They serve their country.
You forget
And,
60 is a number, but
60
you
is a-
see those individuals, some families separated. I mean, it has real consequences.
It has real consequences, but they do it. They stand up and they do it, and we've learned so much. And the military that's there, the embassy will continue on.
What's life like in Russia? What's the streets of Moscow like? How are Americans treated there? What's it?
Well, I'll tell you, the weather's better there than it is here. It's terrible.
The weather is better everywhere than here right now.
Yeah, it's.
But you've enjoyed it. When I talk to you,
really
you make it home.
We're enjoying the experience. It's tough. You know, my husband, the tougher the experience, I think, the more he enjoys it. You know, he
likes the challenge.
He does like the challenge. But you know what? We're grateful for the president for entrusting the confidence in him to help with this really difficult relationship.
Well, those are some serious diplomatic issues, but I've always really wanted to ask you, was Abby a difficult child? Are there any secrets you can tell us?
Oh, you really opened up a can of worms.
She was tough, and I remember my husband saying, "Oh no, wait till she gets to PMS, and then wait till she gets," and all of that.
Thanks, Mom.
And anyway, she is just
How
been
much time
a
do we have
delight.
for this?
Yeah.
We
She's
got all the
just
time we
such a
need.
delight. But there were some days. You know what? She's a strong personality, but that's good.
I know,
That's good. You're doing it every day.
No, we take the incoming.
But through it all, can I tell you, she's always had such a genuine, kind heart. She was always giving to others. She was in a play one day in Salt Lake when I think you were how old when you did the gift of Christmas?
10.
About 10, and they got paid for it. And she
first check, $500, my first check for
$500, but she overheard someone in the play who was married to say, "I'm not going to have a Christmas this year because her husband had lost his job." And anyway, Abby came home and she said, "I want to take my check and I want to just kind of quietly give it to her."
Wow.
And that was a day I think you'll never forget. It was a day of service in her heart.
Well,
to
you and
realize
Dad
that
pushed me to do that as well.
Greater joy in giving than receiving, that's for sure. But she's been
That's
incredible
great.
joy.
It's a great story. We still want to get some dirt, but maybe we'll have you back at another.
I'll tell you
That's
that.
a wonderful
You in
story.
town for a little bit to hang
I'm
out with
here
the little
for
one?
just a couple of days and get
suppose.
back to the embassy. Obviously, John couldn't leave, and it's hard. It's hard to have grandchildren born and not be there to be able to see them.
Please give our
But,
best to the ambassador. It's nice
I
to see you.
certainly will.
And thanks for that video you sent us, by the way. We appreciate that.
All the way from Moscow.
All the way from Moscow.
We should
So,
wrap up.
love you.
Here. Can you
Happy
guys
to
read
be
my
here.
headlines
Yeah,
for me?
we'll do your headlines.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, let me take headlines for Abby. Turning now to your headlines, MMA fighter Conor McGregor could face 7 years, yes, 7 years in prison for that bizarre outburst at Barclays Center. McGregor appearing in court hours after turning himself in. TMZ video shows McGregor throwing a dolly at a bus full of fighters. We're not sure why. Smashed the window at Media Day in New York City. You can see him there racing towards the dolly. 2 people on board. Those fighters are hurt and unable to fight now. He's charged with assault and criminal mischief.
And look at this video, dashcam video showing a fiery high-speed chase crossing state lines. Starting in Indiana, a suspect taking off in a stolen Jeep, speeding up to 120 miles an hour into Michigan. Flames shooting from the truck's undercarriage when police veer into the suspect's vehicle. Police ordering them out of the Jeep, of course. The driver and the 2 passengers were arrested. I don't know how they thought it would end otherwise.
Oh, you want me to ask?
Yeah, we wanted you to jump in.
Okay, well, a brand new football league taking on the NFL launching next year, and with at least one high-profile coach, the Alliance of American Football kicking off its first season in February of 2019, right after the Super Bowl. The league announcing legendary former University of Florida and South Carolina coach Steve Spurrier will coach the Orlando franchise.
Wow.
That's interesting.
No idea the Alliance.
He's a
Wow.
character and a half.
We need more football.
choice.
The old football coach.
We'll give it a try. And talk about an epic fail. A son ruining his mom's gender reveal party by popping the pink confetti-filled balloon with his toy sword. Well done, kid. Right before the party, the Florida mom.
She's
you could
so
see her.
mad.
She's just staring at her son in disbelief. This may not have been his first violation of the day. We can't confirm that, but knowing 3-year-olds, it's likely. When she asked why he popped it, he said, of course, he wanted to see what was inside.
Yeah, Abby.
And adding insult to injury, Abby, the second replacement balloon popped inside the party store, and the third contained just 3 scraps of confetti, making the reveal. You need a microscope to find out. But they're having a baby girl, so
I saw pink,
congratulations.
yes.
Maybe it's a lesson. We shouldn't go so far for these gender reveals.
Exactly.
Just get 3 pieces of confetti, Rick, and you call it a day.
I know. Listen, I think Pete and I, and maybe you, Abby, now are anti-gender reveal parties.
Oh, don't go that far.
I'm with you, Rick. Come on, I'll
All
stay
right,
with
we're
you.
not going to throw you into that that one as well. All right, guys, where have you been?
Waiting on you.
Oh, we haven't had anybody out here this winter. It's been so cold. Finally, the crowds are coming back, guys, even though it's still really not that warm yet. Take a look at the map, show you what's going on. Big rain out across parts of the west. In fact, some record-breaking amount of moisture that's been in the atmosphere across parts of central California, and some flooding going on with that. This will die down today, and that will be some good news. Take a look at that. Down across parts of the Central Plains in towards Oklahoma. That's snow that's falling. Here we are, April 7th, and we have snow going on there, and some severe weather down around the New Orleans area. Watch for that as it moves a little bit towards east throughout the day today. Parts of the northern North Florida and southern Georgia could be seeing some severe weather. That is exactly where we have the threat from the National the Storm Prediction Center, where you could see a tornado or two, certainly some very strong winds. Here's your temps. It's just cold out there still. I think we will start to see a pattern change maybe by about Thursday of this coming week. So about another 5 to 6 days where we have to be patient with this cold across the eastern part of the country, and then we'll start to warm things up.
Rick,
a little bit.
We are out of patience.
Brutal.
I know.
Brutal.
Me too. I'm with you.
Thank you, Rick.
You bet.
Thanks, Rick. All right, well, do you want to keep your personal information private on Facebook? Good question. You might have to pay up. What the tech giant just revealed about your data. We're going to ask Neil Cavuto about it next.
And remember when I beat Pete at basketball? I kind of do. How can we forget? Well, he's now getting a chance at redemption when we face off.
Show me how to do it, Rick. Show me how to do it.
In our own mini golf masters. I am tired of winning.
Good.
Facebook's number 2 in charge, Sheryl Sandberg, you saw her here on the Fox News channel yesterday, says if you want to keep your data private from advertisers, guess what? You got to pony up.
We have different forms of opt-out. We don't have an opt-out at the highest level. That would be a paid product.
Ooh, joining us now with his reaction, Neil Cavuto, host of Cavuto Live, which airs, of course, right after the show at 10 a.m. Good morning, Neil. Good to see you.
Good morning, Abby. It's so neat seeing your mom.
I know. I love her to death. But what are your thoughts, Facebook? I mean, they are in some deep trouble. And Mark Sandberg, I mean, Zuckerberg.
Mark Zuckerberg and Sheryl Sandberg.
You know what's so interesting about these guys, particularly Zuckerberg, is a genius. And I take nothing away from geniuses. I bear that burden myself. If that were true. But do you ever notice that they're all IQ and no EQ, no common sense?
Yeah.
So Zuckerberg talks about that. You know, you always take a risk when you sign up on our services. This information could be shared. Yeah, but you always like to remind them, yeah, but not with the world.
Right.
So, you know, Sandberg trying to sort of reposition this and say, well, you know, that might be a surcharge for you going forward. It shouldn't be a surcharge. You shouldn't have to have this as an elemental risk in signing up for Facebook. You know, I don't know about your kids. My teenage boys, they don't even use Facebook.
Yeah.
They're on all these other sites. I just discovered the internet. It's going to be big, guys. Big. And I'm telling you, this is why young people are not, really young people are not on this and going elsewhere, and this just emboldens them to say no.
Yeah.
So you know,
I think you're
Zuckerberg
exactly
has
right
some
about that.
explaining to do.
Yeah, you're
sure
right.
Does. It's going to be an interesting day. Well, President Trump's, there's some information that came out. You know, he's been accused of being for the 1%, like all Republicans reflexively are if you listen to the so-called mainstream media.
Right.
Well, we now learn that President Trump's new tax law means that the top 20% of Americans, those earning at least $150,000, will actually pay 87% of total income tax. So that top 1%, that top 20%, they're getting hit pretty hard with this new tax law.
And I've been reading, as you guys, I think, have been discussing this plan that the Democrats have that they take over, that they want to redress the whole tax thing and presumably put the burden on the upper income all the more. You know, on this stuff, I'm agnostic, guys. I just feel that it's one thing not to say thank you to the wealthy who pay most of the taxes. So you don't have to say thank you, but you certainly don't have to say screw you. So I find it amazing that we play these games, but you're quite right. It's getting more and more lopsided. I'm a believer that everyone should have skin in the game, not the same percentage skin, but it's sort of like, I don't know about you guys, but if you go out to someone and that person's treating, I'm going to order 2 appetizers. I'm going to order 2 desserts. In fact, I do that whether whether that's the case or not. I just think it's very dangerous. It's a slippery slope, and it's going to cost us all dearly.
That is so well stated, Neil.
A lot of big
So
issues
true.
on the table: illegal immigration, the fight in California and elsewhere, as well as these Chinese tariffs. The market dive yesterday. Who's on the show today?
Well, you know, it's funny. All of this is coming together at the same time, and the markets, as you know, and a bore uncertainty and not knowing where this is going to end. We have a president who's fighting fire with fire, going after the Russians, going after the Mexicans, if you think of it, with this, sending soldiers, troops down to the border, and then, of course, fighting fire with the Chinese and risking all kinds of financial hell. He feels that in the end, everything will be okay. It just might. But it's an interesting time. We're going to be exploring that with some top Republican guns who have their worries about this, how far this could go, particularly going against China. And the mayor of Escondido, California, who looks at this, what's going on right now at the border, and welcomes it, because he's just trying to prevent the problems that are right within his own city.
Jim Jordan, Jan Brewer, a lot of guests coming up live. Don't miss it. Good to see you, Neil.
Some great
Same here,
perspectives.
guys. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, still to come on the show in celebration of the Masters, of course, we are having our own mini golf competition right here on the Plaza. Will Pete get redemption, or is Ed going to keep just
It's almost
winning?
like Tiger, really. You know, it's like this whole
Wear the right shirt.
redemption tour.
It is. Story of my life.
A little bit.
Yeah!
Give it to him.
Yes, sir.
Give it to him. No! Sorry, the better man won.
I was defeated by Henry at 3-point.
So I guess I won that round. Yeah, I kind of did. But Pete wants a shot at redemption.
That is right. Jason Kessler is here from WOW Entertainment, and in honor of the Masters, they have set up our own mini Masters on the Plaza this morning. Thanks for having us, sir.
You realize what you've done to us this morning.
I don't know yet because you haven't started playing, but I think I'll realize in a few minutes.
So
exactly.
people do this for parties in the backyard and what? How do they put it all together?
Not only for the backyard, we actually do corporate events as well. And the great thing about it is it's very modular. We can customize it to any size hole. We actually do an 18-hole course as well. If you see the hole at the end over there, it can be branded for corporate events or corporate sponsorships.
I see one that looks like the Jersey Turnpike, and it's got an easy pass lane that you got to go through.
So we've got a great group of people on our plaza. Who do you guys think's going to win, Pete or Ed?
Yeah! Here we go.
Yeah!
So wait, hold on. Ed, I'm going to have the red ball. I mean, that's for Republicans. You're the liberal journalist. You get the blue ball.
Okay. Okay. The MAGA ball.
This is the MAGA ball. All right, first
Of course,
stroke.
it's red.
Oh my goodness! No,
Not
go in the
even
water!
close.
Oh, it's terrible. It was terrible.
This guy, after seeing that, says he voted Pete. Now he says
Give
Ed.
that guy a microphone.
Oh, see, he went power. No, I get a club's length here, right?
Except I feel like that
Rick,
was...
are you in?
That was... did you intentionally do that?
I did.
I don't believe that for a second.
I did.
I'm not gonna let you hit my ball, Rick.
I'll tell you why in a minute.
Look at that! Look at that! Look at that!
No!
Yeah. Oh no!
I need a little bit of a club leg.
Oh,
I don't have
it. This is all contested.
Yeah, two.
Okay,
All right, you got
So I win that hole.
You got that hole.
Okay.
All right, next hole.
Ed, we're making.
All right,
Rick,
I got
how you
honors.
Go, Rick.
All
All right. Noonan.
This must be thrilling TV.
Oh, here we go. This is thrilling TV. This is really important. He did not play the bank shot well. This is a bank shot.
Oh yeah, I missed it.
Oh,
Oh my goodness! How does it worse?
You did worse.
Pete, power doesn't help you in
Believe
this.
it. Yes! You can't. There's no way. No, Ed, you're done. You're done. No mulligans.
What does
So,
that count as?
Ed, I think I got hole
I
number
concede
2.
that hole.
Yeah, Ed concedes.
All right, last hole.
I'm actually embarrassed for both
1
of you.
minute left.
I really am.
Come on, Ed.
I wish I could have competed in
Go
this.
ahead. You're
Am I up first?
You got honors on that. You won the hole.
I don't know. I think I'm going for the easy pass lane.
I'm going
Here
through
we
easy
go.
pass.
All right, easy pass. You missed this.
All right, we're doing all or nothing here.
Oh, I like where I'm at, Ed.
Okay,
If you
whoever
choke on
gets
this,
closest wins. How's that?
no way. Uh-oh. Ed, I'm going for the win right here. Uh-oh, can he drain it? This is for redemption. Yeah! Ice in his veins. He's got ice in his veins. Maybe when we come back, one shot
to win after the break.
Well done, Ed.
Stick around. You don't want to miss this.
Woo!